Why was the air so still, right before it all went wrong? Even the mountain seemed to hold its breath. Lieutenant Cole Mercer didn't look up from his map. His voice cut through the pines, sharp as the mountain air. "Back with the truck specialist. Let the operators handle this." A few of the men smirked. One chuckled under his breath, light and careless, as if this ridge wasn't about to become a graveyard. Staff Sergeant Maya Raines said nothing. She lay belly down on the ridge of crumbling shale, cheek welded to the cold steel of her M2010 sniper rifle. Her scope framed a narrow draw 700 meters below, a meadow pretending to be peaceful. It was. The world always looked harmless right before it bared its teeth. Through her glass she saw them, a line of U.S. Navy SEALs ghosting through the timber like rumors, confident, disciplined, untouchable. The kind of men who walked as if bullets respected them. Maya breathed with the slope. In slow, out slower. In that moment between heartbeats when the world fell completely quiet, her mind returned to Tennessee, to her grandfather's porch and the cicadas that hummed loud enough to drown out the memories he didn't want to tell. "If you can hear your own pulse, girl, you're almost home," he used to say. The meadow shifted, shadows stiffened. A rock that shouldn't have glinted. Her gut whispered first. Her training confirmed it a second later. "Spectre to Viking," she whispered into the mic, her voice low, calm. "Recommend you angle 10 degrees west, something off in the open." Static, then Mercer's reply clipped certain. "Negative, Spectre. Maintain overwatch, we're good." The word good hit her wrong. It was the kind of word men used before something bad. Laughter came again from the platoon's radio net, light, unbothered. Boys before a game. Maya adjusted her wind hold, eyes steady on the grass. But the grass didn't move like grass. It rippled left, then right against the breeze. A shimmer where no shimmer should be. Tripwire. She swallowed once, felt the weight of air in her lungs, and placed her reticle dead center on that invisible danger. The mountain exhaled. The world exploded. The blast ripped through the valley in a white slap of sound. Smoke rolled uphill, swallowing the draw whole. The ground buckled, trees snapped, dirt flew like shrapnel. Maya didn't flinch. Her face went still, the kind of stillness born from too many hours alone with a rifle and her thoughts. "Contact, contact," someone barked. The comms came alive with chaos, voices shouting, radios crowding each other. Maya found the first muzzle flash left tree line, half concealed by a scatter of deadfall. Range, 783 meters. She dialed half a mil, held another for wind. "Send it," she whispered, but only to herself. The rifle kicked gently against her shoulder. The bullet was there before the sound admitted it had left. The flash died. One shooter down. "Who's shooting?" Eli Santos demanded over the radio. "Overwatch," Chief Petty Officer Brick answered, voice tired but approving. "She's doing her damn job." Another flash. Right side this time, deeper in the timber. Maya adjusted, breath once, fired. The machine gun coughed once and fell silent. The draw was a trap. L-shaped interlocking fire zones, textbook ambush. Whoever set it up wasn't guessing. "Viking, PKM at your 1 o'clock, elevated," she called out. "Shift your base of fire 2 degrees left." The PKM roared to life, raking the team. Mercer cursed. "We're pinned. Air support in 20." 20 minutes. That was a lifetime in a fight like this. Maya steadied her crosshair on the PKM's belt feed, the flex point where metal became weakness, and squeezed. The gun jammed mid-burst. Brick laughed once. "Whoever you are up there, keep doing that." Maya didn't reply. She was already shifting right. Movement, one man crawling low, RPG on his back, another covering him. Maya tracked their knees, counted the rhythm. 1-2, 1-2, and on the rhythm change she fired. The gunner folded. The spotter froze a half-second too long. Another shot, another silence. Below, the SEALs regrouped, disciplined, furious. Mercer's orders came fast, sharp. "Button flank." Santos lay smoke. Brick, get eyes east. The fight began to sound organized again. Controlled chaos. The kind that meant men were remembering who they were. But the shooters kept coming too precise for locals. These weren't bandits. They were trained, deliberate, patient. Through her scope, Maya caught one of them, a man who didn't move like the others. He wasn't panicking. He was directing. Calm, confident. She didn't shoot him, not yet. She traced the draw behind him, saw a faint line of disturbed soil, subtle, deliberate. Secondary charges. Viking, she said into her mic, voice level. Step west puts you into more explosives. Hold your ground, dump smoke, pivot east on my mark. Mercer's voice came back sharp. Who's giving me marks? Overwatch, Brick answered, his tone softer now. Sir, we're bleeding time. Mercer hesitated, one heartbeat too long. Maya made the decision for him. Smoke east now. The valley vanished in a curtain of white. Gunfire faltered. The trained man shifted in confusion. Maya tracked him and fired. His chest snapped back, radio hand frozen mid-call. He fell out of frame. Apache arrived minutes later, carving the valley with 30 fire. The air thundered with judgment. The meadow stopped pretending to be peaceful. When the smoke thinned, the SEAL platoon was moving again, limping, breathing, alive. From her ridge, Maya scanned for movement. Nothing. Just bodies cooling in the grass and a single figure on a far rock shelf, watching. He wasn't running. He stood still, a rifle slung, a case beside his boots. He raised the case, then set it down gently as if the ground mattered. Then he stepped backward into the trees and disappeared. Maya lowered her rifle for the first time in hours. Her pulse thudded once in her ears. At the sight, the MATV idled like a tired refrigerator. Pine trees ringed the clearing like quiet witnesses. Mercer kept his helmet on. Brick didn't. The young lieutenant's voice came polite, forced through teeth. Was that you on the ridge? Maya slung her rifle. Staff Sergeant Rain, sir. Overwatch 10th Mountain. He hesitated, then shook her hand. Lieutenant Mercer. His eyes flicked to her rifle, to her sleeve patch, then away. Appreciate the support. Brick's mouth twitched. You jammed a PKM with a precision round. Never seen that done, like a magic trick. Not a trick, Maya said softly, just math. Santos jogged over, dust caked, eyes still too wide from adrenaline. Ma'am, you saved my backside, I mean thank you. Maya nodded. We saved each other. Mercer cleared his throat, stiff again. We had the situation in hand. Air support got us clear. Brick looked at him, half a smile, half a reprimand. Sir, air arrived because you were still alive to call it. Maya didn't add anything. She just watched the map Mercer spread across the hood of the vehicle, grease pencil lines drawn in confidence, arrows demanding obedience from land that never obeyed anyone. We expected harassment fire, Mercer said. Not this. Professional, Maya replied. Not local tactics, doctrine clean. Mercer frowned. Foreign fighters. Could be. She circled 2 spots on the map. These pits here and here were designed to enfilade your withdrawal. The belt feed I hit, that was meant to chew you up as you pivoted west. Brick exhaled, and we almost did. Mercer's jaw tightened. We didn't. Maya said nothing. It wasn't her job to protect anyone's pride. It was her job to tell the truth, so the next fight wouldn't eat them alive. I saw someone coordinating them, she said quietly. He moved like instruction, not improvisation. Mercer's eyes lifted. You engaged? Yes. Kill confirmed. High probability. Body fell out of view. He nodded, but his breath came uneven. We reset, go again at dusk, different axis. That's what they want, Maya interrupted softly. The words hung in the cold air. Santos frowned. What makes you say that? They left tripwire too neat, too visible. They wanted your eyes there. She looked up from the map. And they built kill positions assuming a certain kind of leader. Mercer didn't flinch. He knew what she meant. Pride kills as quietly as bullets. "So what do?" he asked. "We flip the assumptions," Maya said. "Make them chase noise while we walk through emptiness." Brick smiled faintly. "I like emptiness." They in murmurs, professionals arguing politely with math until the numbers agreed with the land. Maya marked wind corridors, explained angles most people never think about. Santos listened, learning. Mercer surprised her, less arrogant now, more soldier than officer. When they dispersed, the light was fading. The mountains were changing color, trading their loyalty from blue to black. Maya climbed alone to her overwatch. The same knife-edged ridge, wind whispering secrets across the limestone. Stars threw frost over everything. She set her rifle on its rest, watched, waited. In the valley below she caught voices. Two of them, foreign, calm. A pair of silhouettes in a stone outcrop, spotter and shooter. She waited. Let the night stretch until even the crickets stopped. Then she took the spotter first, because ambition becomes accuracy through the man holding the glass. The shooter twitched, turned, died before he could. "Overwatch to Viking," she whispered. "East op is blind, green to move." Ghosts of smoke rose from the west as the seals shifted, shadows moving like water, slipping through the cut she'd found for them. Then a glint too deliberate to be an accident, the same rock shelf, the same man, watching her again. He had the case, he set it down, opened it with reverence. Maya felt her pulse rise. She placed her reticle just below his throat and waited. Not yet. Not until she knew what that case meant. What was inside that case, and why did the man handle it like a secret that could kill the world? Maya couldn't see the contents, only his reverence, how he touched the latches like a priest preparing a prayer. Her finger rested on the trigger, feather light, but she didn't pull. Patience was oxygen for people like her. She let the mountain breathe, let time stretch until it hurt. "Overwatch to Viking," she whispered. "Confirm visual on approach." "Copy," Brick's voice came back low, gravelly. "We're at the cut, no contact yet." "Keep it that way." The man on the rock shelf closed the case, lifted it carefully and stepped backward into the dark timber. No wasted motion, no noise, only certainty. Maya stayed with the image long after he disappeared, the scar behind his ear, the faded tattoo on his forearm. A sparrow diving through barbed wire. Not tribal, not Afghan, old, Russian old. Her gut tightened. Down below, the seals were ghosts now, moving through corridors of trees carved by centuries of wind. The mountains whispered things only the old soldiers could understand, about men who thought they were alone and never were. Maya tracked them through the scope, her breathing the only sound. "Viking, you're clear for 10 meters, she murmured. Then hard left at the split. "There's a stone bunker camouflaged under the ledge. Watch for the passive sensor 2 meters left of the door." A pause, then Santos whispered, barely audible, "Found it, spoof or kill." "Spoof, kill makes them loud." "Roger." The line went quiet, the kind of quiet that meant men were doing work that mattered. Maya listened to the heartbeat in her ear, her own, slow and stubborn. A faint click over the net. "Doors open," Brick said. "We're going in." Maya scanned the ridges. Negative movement topside, proceed. She adjusted her magnification, searching for the shelf again. Nothing. The man with the case had vanished completely. That was worse than seeing him. "Overwatch," Mercer's voice came soft but controlled. "Inside looks wrong." "Define wrong." "Concrete reinforced, Cyrillic stencils on crates, biohazard markings, Jesus." Santos broke in, his voice tight. "Sir, this isn't weapon storage, it's containment." Maya closed her eyes once. Containment. The word felt heavier than any explosion. "You're going to blow it," she said. "Affirmative," Mercer replied. "Charges low and inboard, Brick, plan on my mark." "Keep the collapse internal," Maya reminded. "You don't want to aerosolize whatever's inside." "Understood." She shifted her position, rechecking her wind calls. The air had changed, thinner, colder, pulling east. She tasted snow on it. Through her scope she found movement again, 3 figures climbing from the lower slope, moving like water uphill. Not militia, not amateurs, too disciplined, too calm. They used their rifles as guides, not weapons. "Viking, you've got 3 moving west to east, parallel your entry," she warned. "They'll be within 100 meters of your 6 in 30 seconds. Mercer's reply was immediate. "Options. Run faster than them," Maya said, "or let me handle it." "Handle it." She took the last man first, always the last. The formation broke as the body dropped. The leader pivoted to correct, smooth and trained, not surprised, just adjusting. That told her everything. She shifted half a mil, pressed, exhaled. The second man fell. The third froze, calculation, not panic. She spared him, shot the tree beside his face and let him live with the lesson. "Rear is clear," she said. Inside the bunker, Brick's voice was counting softly. 3, 2, execute. The earth moved. The mountain swallowed sound, folded the bunker inward like a secret refusing to be told. The detonation didn't roar, it sighed. Dust lifted, rolled, and settled again. Maya watched the shelf. Nothing, then a flicker, one small flash, twice, like a signal. "Overwatch to Viking, you're west." "Copy," Mercer said, moving. The seals broke from the tree line, shapes bleeding through smoke, moving with that special rhythm soldiers get when fear and discipline hold hands. Maya kept her scope trained, eyes tracing every shadow, every unnatural rhythm in the brush. Nothing, then the faintest motion, a shimmer of reflection almost too small to matter. She found him again, the same man, standing in the same place, untouched by dust or panic, the case slung across his back. He raised his chin just enough for the starlight to catch his eyes. He knew she was watching. He tapped the case twice, a soft, deliberate ritual, and smiled. Not arrogance, recognition. "Overwatch," Brick said. "We're clear, no contact." "Not yet," Maya murmured. She watched him turn and disappear into the black timber. Only the echo of his presence remained, that faint ripple in the air where certainty used to be. By dawn, the ridge was quiet again. Only ash and silence remained, the kind of silence that feels earned. At the forward base, the smell of hydraulic fluid and dust hung in the air. Maya sat outside the Tactical Operations Center, cleaning her rifle piece by piece. Every motion ritual, not superstition, survival. Inside, voices rose, commanders arguing doctrine and reports. Maya didn't need to hear the words. She already knew the pattern, men debating logistics over the ghosts of those who nearly didn't come back. The door opened. A man stepped out, tall, gray at the temples, uniform pressed but tired. General Elias, the task force commander. He walked straight to her, boots crunching gravel, and stopped in front of the bench. "Your reign." "Yes, sir." He looked down at the bolt in her hand, then at her face. "Clean the way it should be," he said. She blinked, not sure if that was a compliment or an inspection. "I heard what you did up there," continued. 9 confirmed, a platoon saved and a ghost seen. Maya's eyes lifted. "Ghost, sir." His voice dropped. "Colonel Ivan. We used to call him the ghost of Soviet Bioweapons Security Division. We thought he died in '91. Apparently he didn't." Maya said nothing. Soldiers learn early that silence is safer than theory. Studied her face, saw the calculation in her eyes. "Your grandfather ever serve?" Maya's jaw tightened. "Yes, sir, he never talked about it." Nodded slowly. "Some bloodlines run deep in the mountains." He placed a heavy hand on her shoulder. "Stay sharp, Staff Sergeant. The next fight will be worse." Then he turned and went back inside. The door closed behind him. Maya sat there a long time, the bolt still in her hand. She didn't realize until later that her knuckles had gone white. That night the team ate together in the mess tent. Cold trays, warm noise. Laughter forced into the air like a survival instinct. Brick sat across from her, posture easy. Mercer was quiet, the weight of leadership sitting heavy in his eyes. Santos picked at his food, thoughtful. Brick finally broke the silence. You know, most of us don't believe in ghosts. Maya raised an eyebrow. And you? I believe in shooters I can't see, he said. And scars men carry from wars that never end. That's close enough to ghosts for me. She nodded once, quiet respect. Santos finally spoke, voice hesitant. Back there, when you told us to smoke east instead of west, if you hadn't, we wouldn't be here. He looked down, then up again. You saved us. Maya met his eyes. We saved each other. Across the table, Mercer's jaw worked once, twice, like he was grinding humility into something he could swallow. I misjudged you, Staff Sergeant, he said finally. Won't happen again. She didn't smile. Respect wasn't a favor, it was currency, and tonight the balance had shifted. Outside, wind moved through the wire fences like a whisper, looking for someone who would listen. Maya stepped into the night alone. The stars were the same as they were back home, cold, clear, judgmental. She thought about her grandfather again, about how he used to say the land speaks to those who are patient enough to listen. She looked toward the mountains, their edges faint silver under moonlight. Somewhere out there was moving, carrying that case. The wind shifted east again. It smelled of snow and secrets. Her radio crackled, Brick's voice low, you awake? Barely. Wants us wheels up at 500. Another target, something called Hades Cash. CIA's pulling strings. Copy. Maya. Yeah. That man you saw, the one with the case. You think he's coming back? She stared at the horizon. He never left. At 500, the rotor washed tore the silence apart. The lifted them into cold air that smelled like metal and pine. Maya sat by the open door, headset pressed to her ears, eyes on the receding base. Below, the land unfolded in ridges and shadows, 1,000 stories buried under rock and memory. Santos leaned across. You really think it's him, the ghost? I don't believe in ghosts, she said. Brick does. Brick's superstitious. I'm just tired. He smiled faintly. You don't look tired. She didn't answer. The truth was, fatigue lived in her bones like an old tenant that didn't pay rent. The pilot's voice crackled through the comms. 10 minutes out. Valley floors tight. LZ hot if intel's wrong. Mercer leaned forward, eyes on the map glowing under the red cabin lights. We go in silent, 2 teams. Rain on overwatch. Santos, Brick with me. Maya adjusted the strap of her rifle. Copy all. The helicopter banked left and the world tilted. Snow peaks glinted like shards of broken glass. Below, the valley waited, still and deceitful. As they descended, Maya could already see it. The entrance camouflaged in rock. Soviet craftsmanship, stubborn and proud. The bird touched down hard. Dust exploded outward. Boots hit ground. Maya broke off immediately, climbing the eastern ridge with the slow, careful rhythm of someone who trusted her balance more than her luck. She set up behind a boulder, laid prone, scope sweeping the world. Then she saw it, a flash of glass, high on the opposite slope, counter-sniper. Range 1,100 meters, wind 4 knots cross. She calmed her breath, found that space between heartbeats her grandfather used to talk about. The crosshair kissed the shimmer. She squeezed. The sniper folded. The spotter followed half a second later. Sniper team neutralized, she reported, voice steady. Copy, Mercer said. We're moving inside. From her perch, she watched them vanish into the bunker. She watched the ridges breathe. She watched the snow begin to fall. Then, through the shifting gray, she saw him again. Scar tattoo case. Alive, watching her through the same cold glass. For the first time, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not fear, recognition. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was inheritance. The ambush didn't come from the trees this time. It came from history. Inside the bunker, the team was already moving, cutting pale tunnels through the dark. Brick's voice came over comms, steady and low. Structure's old, Soviet era, feels like it's been sleeping for decades. Keep it quiet, Mercer replied. Santos on sensors, Brick clear right. Maya watched from above, her eye locked behind glass. The valley felt too still. Even the wind had left. She swept her scope east to west, slow, deliberate. A crow cut across the sky, black against white snow, one small movement in a world holding its breath. And then she saw him. Yes. He was standing again on that high ridge, the case still slung against his back. His stance was deliberate, ritualistic. He didn't look toward her, he looked through her, like a man studying something already written. Viking, be advised, she whispered. Ghost is here. Silence answered, then Mercer's voice, softer, careful. Visual confirm. Affirm. Distance. 900 meters. Elevated, he's not running. Copy, a pause, stay with him. That wasn't an order, it was a confession of trust. Maya adjusted her magnification, tracing the faint line of smoke curling behind him. Not from a cigarette, from a charge, small and cold burning, the kind used to mark positions without light. Below her, Brick's breathing filled the comms. Sir, you should see this. What is it? Containment racks, Cyrillic labels, old biohazard seals, not ruptured but close. Maya's throat tightened. Was right, Mercer muttered. This isn't weapons storage, it's legacy. Santos' voice came shaky through static. Sir, some of these markings match the ones from the first site, Hades cache. The name hung there, like a rumor too heavy to repeat. Maya kept her rifle on. He was moving now, slow and precise, adjusting something on the case. He opened it not toward her but toward the valley below, as if the air itself was his audience. She caught a glimpse of something metallic inside, cylindrical, contained, old but intact. Her pulse climbed. Viking, she said, he's prepping something. Can you take the shot? Yes. Then why haven't you? Because she was studying him, because something about the moment felt wrong, rehearsed. He's baiting me, she whispered. Mercer hesitated. Explain. He's showing me just enough. He wants me to fire. The general's voice cut into the channel himself. Overwatch, this is actual. You have authority. If you see the threat, eliminate it. Sir. That's an order. Maya steadied her breathing. Her fingers settled on the trigger. Through the glass, eyes lifted again, calm, deliberate, knowing. He tapped the case once, twice, like before. A ritual. Then he reached behind it and pressed something small against the rock. A transmitter. Abort, Maya hissed. He's not holding data, he's marking coordinates. What kind of coordinates? Mercer demanded. Targeting, she said. You're standing on it. Inside the bunker, Brick's voice sharpened. Sir, devices lighting up, sensors spiking. The world cracked open. The explosion didn't come from one point. It came from below. Deep charges planted under the bedrock, enough to shatter stone into air. The ground heaved, the bunker moaned, and men shouted over each other. Move, move, Mercer roared. Maya's scope shook with the tremor. She rolled off her perch, hit the shale hard, scrambled to her knee. Smoke bled from cracks in the earth. Overwatch status. I'm good, she said, coughing. You. Partial collapse. We're climbing out, Brick's hit. Her stomach clenched. Severity. Leg wound, bleeding bad. Keep pressure, get him to the west cut. She dropped into motion, sliding downhill through dirt and pine, rifle hugged tight to her chest. The air burned with the smell of old chemicals and new fire. By the time she reached the tree line, the seals were dragging Brick out, half carrying, half pulling. Blood soaked through his pant leg in thick patches. Maya knelt beside him, ripped open a pouch, jammed gauze against the wound. Brick grimaced, teeth gritted. You run out of luck, Rain. Never had much to begin with. He smirked weakly. Good, makes you harder to disappoint. Mercer crouched beside them, breathing hard. That was a trap. He wanted us to find this place. Maya nodded once. He's testing reactions. He wants to see who's left standing. Santos looked back toward the burning bunker. Why test us? To measure the response, she said softly, to see how fast we adapt. The mountain groaned again, a second rumble echoing from below, smaller, deliberate, controlled detonations. Mercer's eyes widened. He's sealing the tunnels. Correction, Maya said. He's sealing the evidence. They moved, no formation, no command structure, just survival instinct. Up through broken timber, past rocks that smoked like old wounds. When they reached the ridge, the air was cold again, sterile, indifferent. Was gone. But his signature remained, the careful absence of mistakes. They made it back to the fob after nightfall. The base looked smaller now, its floodlights harsh against the memory of what they'd seen. Brick was in medical within minutes, leg wrapped, IV started. He gave Maya a thumbs up as they wheeled him past. Still prettier than the doc, he said. She shook her head. You've lost a lot of blood. Not my charm. Then he was gone down the hall. Maya stayed outside, cleaning the grime from her rifle under the pale light of the courtyard. Each scrape of the brush against steel felt like trying to erase something she couldn't name. Mercer approached quietly, still in gear, eyes tired. He stood there for a moment before speaking. You were right, he said finally. It wasn't over. It never is. He rubbed his hands together as if trying to warm them. Command wants a sitrep, already rewriting what happened. Partial engagement, contained threat. They'll make it sound clean. Maya met his eyes. Nothing about today was clean. He nodded, jaw tight. I know. For a long moment they just stood there. Soldiers from different worlds, same silence. Then he asked quietly, why didn't you shoot him? She didn't answer right away. She could still see eyes in her scope, calm, unafraid. Because it wouldn't have changed anything, she said finally. He wanted me to. Mercer frowned. You think he's after you? I think he's after what built me, she said softly. And I think he's been planning this longer than we've been alive. Later that night, Maya sat outside her quarters, the desert wind whispering against canvas. She held a compass in her hand, old brass, the kind soldiers carried before GPS existed. Her grandfather's initials were etched into the lid. When she opened it, there was a small piece of paper folded inside, faded, torn, words written in Cyrillic. She couldn't read them, but the name was clear. She stared at it for a long time, the wind tugging at her hair, the sky wide and merciless above her. Her grandfather had fought in Korea, maybe Vietnam, he never said. But now she wondered if that was the whole truth. Maybe some wars never end, they just change names. The radio crackled beside her. Rain, it's command wants you wheels up at 600, debrief in Kabul, bring your gear and that rifle. Copy, sir. And Rain. Yes, sir. Good work today. The line went dead before she could answer. Good work. The phrase felt like sand in her mouth. She looked down at the compass again. The needle didn't point north anymore. It trembled like it was remembering too much. She didn't sleep that night. Just cleaned her rifle, disassembled, reassembled, over and over until dawn bled pale across the horizon. At sunrise, she walked to the airstrip, her rifle slung pack light, the weighted engines whining. Santos was there, helmet under his arm. You ever get used to this? He asked. Used to what? Surviving when others don't. Maya's face softened just a little. You don't get used to it, you just stop being surprised. He nodded, not quite understanding but trying to. Brick said you'll find him. Yeah. She looked out at the sky. I don't need to find him, she said. He'll find me. The rotors began to spin, chopping the air into noise. As the bird lifted, Maya looked down at the valley fatting beneath her. Smoke still rose from the bunker, a thin, defiant scar against the snow. Somewhere below, a man with a sparrow tattoo carried a case full of old sins and new beginnings. And for the first time, she wasn't sure which side of history she was standing on. The file they handed her in Kabul wasn't a briefing. It was a warning dressed in paperwork. Maya sat alone in the operations room, fluorescent lights humming above her, a folder of classified documents open like a confession no one wanted to read aloud. The air smelled of stale coffee and printer ink. The first page was simple black text, red stamps. Subject Colonel Ivan Morozov. Status, active. Classification, ghost asset. Ghost asset. Not enemy, not rogue. Asset. Her throat tightened. Someone somewhere still considered him useful. She flipped through the pages, photos blurred by age, coordinates circled in pencil, reports from the 1980s describing units hidden in remote mountain vaults, each one marked with the same, Hades cache. The last page stopped her cold. A grainy photograph, two soldiers standing beside a helicopter in black and white, one of them unmistakably, the other her grandfather. She stared until her vision blurred. The caption beneath it read, Joint Soviet-US Exchange, 1978 Province. Her pulse beat in her ears. She felt the ground tilt under her chair. The door opened behind her. General stepped in, jacket unbuttoned, eyes sharp despite the fatigue hanging from his face. You read it, he said, not asking. She didn't look up. My grandfather exhaled. We didn't know until the microfilm you found. Your grandfather worked liaison during Operation Silent Summit, off-books Cold War cooperation, was his counterpart. Maya turned the photograph around. They were friends. They were soldiers, said. That's the same thing until the orders change. She closed the folder slowly. Why tell me now? Because you'll need to understand him if you're going to stop him. Stop him from what, sir? Paused, then leaned on the table. He's not carrying plague, not exactly. Those containment units you saw, they held vectors, dormant samples, precursors. He's after something bigger, something unfinished. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper, and command still calls him an asset. His jaw hardened. Politics. That word felt like poison in the air. He pushed the folder toward her. You're reassigned under task force, Joint Ops, Rangers, SEALs, Agency. You'll be the eye in the sky again. Sir, she said quietly, it's not just an enemy. He's a ghost from my own bloodline. Then maybe you're the one who can see him clearly, said. He left without another word. The next 48 hours blurred, transport, refit, briefings disguised as arguments. Kabul's heat turned every uniform into wet canvas. When she finally boarded the C-130 heading north, she felt older than the plane itself. Mercer sat 2 seats away, flipping through a mission dossier. His eyes met hers once, searching for something human. She looked back, steady, unreadable. Still think you shouldn't have been there? She asked. He gave a humorless smile. After what you did on that ridge, no, I just wish I knew what we were walking into now. You don't believe the official line. I stopped believing clean missions after my first firefight, he said. Every op has ghosts, we just pretend not to see them. Santos leaned forward from the row behind, grinning despite the tension. Speak for yourself. I saw one. Tattoo, sparrow, barbed wire. Maya's gaze flicked toward him. He's real. Santos nodded slowly. Then maybe we all need to stop pretending. The plane droned on into the dark, the kind of dark that had its own gravity. They inserted at dawn, high valley, thin air, snow like ash over stone. The new team felt different, quieter, hungrier. They'd been briefed by people who smiled too easily. A CIA liaison named Rhodes met them at the LZ, sleeves rolled, sunglasses reflecting nothing. "Morning, folks," he said, voice light. "Your job, simple. Verify intel from Haiti's cache sites. We believe's heading east, border side. You're to intercept and retrieve any containment units." Maya studied him. Retrieve, not destroy. Rhodes smiled like someone used to secrets. "Command wants eyes on what's being moved before we burn it. Scientific value." Mercer's jaw flexed. "Scientific value killed good men last week." Rhodes' smile didn't falter. "So let's make sure it doesn't kill more." He turned and walked toward his vehicle, coat fluttering like arrogance in fabric form. Santos muttered under his breath, "He's gonna die first." Brick's laugh would fit there, but Brick wasn't with them this time. His absence was a hole none of them could patch. Maya looked east through the glass of her scope. The world stretched endless and cruel. Somewhere out there moved like a shadow with purpose. She adjusted the focus. "We move." They trekked 12 kilometers before the first snow flurry. The mountains around them were older than language, patient in their silence. Santos broke it first. "You ever think about why you became a sniper?" Maya didn't answer immediately. She kept walking, eyes on the path. "Because it's the only place where silence means control. Not revenge. Revenge makes noise. I prefer results." He nodded thoughtful, "Fair." Mercer's radio crackled. "Rhodes to Viking 1. You're nearing grid delta. Expect contact. Drone feed shows thermal movement near the ridge." Maya lifted her scope. Nothing visible but the wind carried a hum, distant, mechanical. "Not locals," she murmured, "too coordinated." Then she saw its small shapes weaving through the snow line flanking. Drones. Ground recon bots, modified Russian pattern. "Viking," she said sharply, "we're being herded." "Confirmed," Mercer answered. "Options. Climb, higher ground buys seconds." They moved quick and low, boots crunching through ice. The machines followed, silent predators. One crested a rock shelf, sensors pulsing red. Maya dropped to a knee, exhaled, fired. The round cracked through its chassis, sparks spitting. Two more advanced. She fired again, measured, methodical. "Nice shooting," Santos said, breath ragged. "Don't compliment me yet." From the canyon below, voices rose, human this time. Russian, disciplined cadence. "Contact," Mercer shouted. The firefight unfolded like clockwork, unraveling, short bursts, sharp echoes. Maya counted movements, called corrections, picked targets she couldn't afford to miss. Snow mixed with gunpowder, turning the air metallic. Then she saw him. Again. Half silhouette through smoke, one arm bound by a sling, still moving like inevitability. Her scope found him, breath in, breath out, stillness. But he wasn't aiming, he was watching, measuring. He turned slightly, revealing the case still strapped to his side. Then, impossibly, he lifted his free hand and saluted her. Maya froze. "Rain," Mercer called, "take the shot." She didn't, not yet. Because behind him, through the haze, she saw shapes, women, children, civilians. A village tucked under the ridge. She understood then. He'd led them here. Every bullet risked the innocent. "Negative shot," she said. "Repeat." "Negative shot. He's using civilians as cover." Mercer cursed, "Pull back, smoke out." They uphill under a storm of disciplined fire. Rounds hissed past, chipping rock. Maya covered their retreat, each shot a negotiation between mercy and survival. When they reached the crest, she glanced back through her scope. Was gone, the village untouched. He hadn't wanted a slaughter, he'd wanted restraint. And she had given it. By nightfall they'd made camp in a ravine, firelight low, radio chatter reduced to whispers. Mercer sat beside her, eyes reflecting flame. "You had the shot. I had civilians. You hesitated. I chose, she said quietly. He stared at her for a long time, then nodded. And maybe that's why we're still human. Silence stretched between them, comfortable in its honesty. Finally he said, "What do you think he wants, Rain, really?" She poked the embers with a stick. Maybe the same thing we all want, to be remembered for the right reasons. Santos chuckled softly from the other side of the fire. Ghosts don't get to pick their reasons. Maya looked into the flames, her face half lit, half shadow. Neither do we. The wind rose, carrying distant echoes, maybe stone settling, maybe something else. In her mind she heard her grandfather's voice again, soft as pine dust. "Breathe with the land, girl. The land wants you to live." She whispered to the fire, almost too quiet to hear. "Then tell me why it keeps burying us." No one answered. The flames just leaned with the wind and went quiet. Hours later the radio crackled. Roads again. Team Viking Sitrep. Mercer grabbed the handset. Partial engagement, no civilian casualties. Target escaped. Copy. Rhodes' tone was smug even through static. Satellite confirms thermal residuals from the site. Looks like containment crates moved south. We'll reroute you at first light. Maya leaned toward the mic. South leads through. That's civilian territory. Then keep collateral low, Rhodes said smoothly. The line went dead. Mercer cursed under his breath. They don't care. They never did, Maya said. She looked toward the horizon, where the snow-bright peaks faded into night. Somewhere beyond them walked through the dark, still carrying that case, still 2 moves ahead. She felt it in her bones, the pattern repeating, the circle tightening. Tomorrow they'd chase him again. And tomorrow, she might finally understand what her grandfather had never said out loud. That some wars weren't meant to be won. Only witnessed. The mountains didn't want them back, and the sky made no promises. By morning, the storm had swallowed half the valley. Snow fell in slow, heavy drifts, burying footprints before they could finish cooling. The world looked calm again, the kind of calm that hides consequences. Maya sat on a rock, watching her breath fade into mist. Her rifle rested across her lap, the barrel streaked with ice. Every click of metal expanding in the cold sounded like memory. Mercer crouched beside a small burner stove, warming his hands. "Command wants movement within the hour," he said quietly. "Rhodes is pressing for south route insertion." Maya didn't look at him. "That route goes through civilians." He nodded. "I told him that." "And," he said, "collateral is part of the equation." Maya's eyes lifted, sharp and cold. "We're not part of their math." Mercer met her gaze. There was no argument in his face, only exhaustion that looked too old for a man his age. "I know." Santos joined them, steam rising from a tin mug in his hands. "We could ghost through the ridge instead," he said. "It'll add 6 clicks but 0 exposure." Mercer frowned. "The ridge route's unstable." "Everything out here's unstable," Maya said softly, "except intent." She stood, slung her rifle, and started walking. Mercer and Santos followed without another word. The climb was brutal. The slope cut across rock slick with meltwater, each step a negotiation between gravity and willpower. Above them, the clouds moved like bruises. Halfway up, Santos slipped, caught himself on a root, muttered something about Tennessee ghosts. Maya almost smiled. "You believe in them now?" she asked. "After that bunker, I'd believe in unicorns if one showed up with air support." Mercer's chuckle came out like a sigh. "Careful what you wish for." They reached the by noon. The storm had blown east, leaving behind a raw silence. From up there, the valley stretched like an old scar. Maya dropped to her stomach, scanning through her scope. Heat signatures flickered far below movement. Trucks, 6 of them, moving in convoy formation. "Viking, this is Overwatch," she said. "Visual on 6-vehicle convoy. Russian origin unmarked. Distance 4 clicks heading south." Mercer crouched beside her. Could be locals. No locals drive pattern like that, she replied. Disciplined spacing, same convoy length as the one from the bunker. Santos adjusted his binoculars. Cargo trucks, covered beds, escorts front and rear. Looks like they're moving the containment units. Leading them? Mercer asked. Maya scanned, negative visual. Then he's ahead of them. They watched for another minute. The convoy crawled like a vein of iron through snow. No hurry, no panic. Confidence, the kind that comes from knowing you own the next move. Mercer finally said, "We can't engage that column alone." "No," Maya said, "but we can mark it." She reached into her pack, pulled out a small transmitter disc, and pressed its activation light until it blinked faintly. Then she tossed it into the snow beside her. "Signal up," she said. "They'll track it from command." Santos stared at the trucks disappearing into fog. "You think Rhodes will actually use that intel to stop them?" Maya didn't answer, because she already knew the answer. By nightfall, they'd made shelter in an abandoned shepherd's hut. The roof sagged, the wind howled through cracks in the planks, and yet it felt safer than any base she'd ever slept in. Mercer sat against the wall, helmet off, face pale under the lantern light. "Gone dark," he said. "All comms routing through agency now. Rhodes is giving direct orders." Maya tightened her grip on the rifle bolt she'd been cleaning. "That's not command. That's politics playing soldier." Santos stirred a can of rations over a small fire. "Then what do we do?" "Same as always," she said quietly. "Finish the job before it finishes us." Mercer looked at her. "You think this ends with?" Her eyes flicked toward the window, where the snow glowed faintly blue in the moonlight. "It ends when the truth does." They ate in silence. Soldiers don't waste words when they can save strength. Later, when the others were asleep, Maya sat by the window. The world outside was silver and still. Her reflection stared back at her tired eyes, lips chapped from wind, a woman carved down to her purpose. She opened her grandfather's compass again. The same folded note rested inside. She unfolded it under the lantern light, tracing the Cyrillic letters she couldn't read. At the bottom was a symbol she'd missed before, a sparrow, drawn in quick, deliberate ink. Her breath caught. A tattoo. It wasn't just his mark, it was theirs. She felt her throat close around something heavy. Her grandfather hadn't just known him, he'd worked with him, maybe even saved him. And now, somehow, that debt had outlived them both. She whispered into the quiet, "What did you leave me in this war, Granddad?" The wind answered with silence. The next morning broke clear and sharp, sunlight bouncing off the snow in blinding sheets. They moved south, tracking the convoy's tire marks where they could, navigating by instinct when they couldn't. 2 hours in, the marks stopped, clean, too clean. Maya froze. They covered their trail. Mercer scanned the terrain. No sign of spillage, no debris. They didn't just vanish. Santos pointed to a rock wall ahead, fissures running like veins through the limestone. "Cave system." "Maybe," Maya said. "Or maybe they want us to think it is." Before they could decide, the air changed. That subtle, animal sense soldiers develop when the world shifts its attention. Maya raised her hand. "Get down." A second later, the ridge erupted. Rounds tore through snow and bark, the sound of disciplined violence bouncing off the valley walls. "Contact front," Mercer yelled. They dove behind rocks. Santos returned fire, controlled bursts. Maya rolled to a prone position, scope aligning in muscle memory. Through the haze she saw them, figures moving tactically, fast, coordinated. Not militia, trained, maybe even familiar. Then she saw the patch on one of their shoulders, the faint outline of an American flag. Her stomach dropped. "Viking," she said over the net, "check your IFF. Those aren't hostiles." Mercer blinked, then swore. "Rhodes' men, private contractors." "Friendly fire," Santos spat. "You've got to be kidding me." Friendly doesn't mean friend, Maya said. They held position, firing suppressive bursts just enough to keep heads down. Maya shifted her scope and saw Rhodes himself step into view, calm, deliberate, a radio in his hand. He spoke into it, and the gunfire stopped. Then his voice came through their net. "Stand down, Team Viking. This is Rhodes, your off-mission authority." Mercer's hand tightened around his rifle. "Say again." "You heard me," Rhodes said. "You're compromised, commands relieving you of operational control." "On whose authority?" "Mine," Rhodes said. "'S being extracted. This isn't a kill mission anymore." Maya's heart stuttered. "Extracted." Rhodes smiled faintly. "He's coming in. Cooperative asset. Higher clearance than any of you, so lower your weapons and stay out of the way." Static filled the net, as if even the frequency itself refused to carry those words. Mercer's voice came quiet, dangerous. "That man killed my team." Rhodes shrugged. "Cost of relevance, Lieutenant." Santos spat into the snow. "You're protecting him." "Not protecting," Rhodes said. "Preserving. Some ghosts are too valuable to lose." Maya stood from cover, rifle still raised. "And what happens when your ghost turns on you?" Rhodes smiled. "Then we call another one." He turned to walk away, flanked by his men. But before he reached his vehicle, Maya called out, "Did you know my grandfather?" He stopped, looked back, half amused. Of course, he helped write the file. The air left her lungs. "What file?" "The one that made who he is," Rhodes said softly. "And maybe who you are too." Then he climbed into the armored truck, and the convoy rolled away, leaving silence and exhaust in its wake. Maya stood there long after the sound faded, the snow swallowing everything but her heartbeat. Santos broke the quiet. "What now?" She didn't move. "Now," she said softly, "we stop following orders." Mercer's brow furrowed. "You're talking about going rogue." "I'm talking about finishing what they started." He hesitated long enough for her to see him wrestling with the weight of obedience. Then he nodded once. "I'm with you." Santos grinned. "Well, hell, if we're ghosts now, let's haunt somebody." Maya looked down the valley where Rhodes' tracks cut through the snow like a wound. She could almost feel the mountain listening. "This ends where it began," she said. Her fingers brushed the compass in her pocket. The needle still trembled, refusing to settle. She whispered to it, to herself, to the past that refused to stay buried. "Guide me right this time." The wind shifted, carrying snowflakes that felt like whispers against her face. And somewhere ahead, in the white distance, a man with a sparrow tattoo waited, smiling like the future was already written. They followed the tracks into a silence that felt rehearsed. Snow muffled everything except their breathing and the crunch of boots. The convoy's tire prints curved south for a mile, then split in two directions, one route obvious, the other deliberate camouflage, a faint indentation that disappeared into the pines. Maya crouched, brushed her glove across the hidden trail, and felt the groove of weight beneath the surface. "Heavy vehicles," she murmured. "They dragged the real cargo this way." Mercer scanned the tree line. "Then Rhodes gave us the decoy." "Or gave him one," she said. Santos exhaled steam into the cold. "You think they're working together?" "No," she said quietly. "I think Rhodes thinks he's in control. It's just letting him believe it." They started down the narrow path, moving slow, rifles low. The forest thickened around them, dark trunks spaced like columns in some ruined cathedral. The light dimmed to a colorless haze, the kind of half-day that made time irrelevant. An hour in, the snow stopped falling. The world went perfectly still. Santos whispered, "Feels like we're walking into somebody's memory." "Maybe we are," Maya said. The path ended at a cliff shelf overlooking a frozen river. Below, the tracks vanished beneath the ice. Mercer knelt beside the edge, studying it. "They crossed here." "Maybe," Maya said, "or maybe they went under." He looked up. "Under." She pointed with her scope. Near the far bank, faint lines of steam bled through cracks in the ice, exhaust venting upward from beneath the surface. Mercer's breath caught. Subtunnel. Old Soviet engineering, she said. This building never stopped. It just changed ownership. They circled down the slope, found a half-buried hatch disguised under a crust of ice and mud. Rusted, welded shut, but still breathing heat from the inside. Santos knelt, pressed his ear to the metal. Machinery deep. Mercer checked his watch. We breach fast, quiet if we can. Maya shook her head. No, if he's down there, he already knows we're here. He looked at her. Then why hasn't he hit us yet? She stared at the hatch. Because he's waiting for me. The tunnel was a throat cut through the mountain, concrete sweating from decades of buried weather. They descended by flashlight, boots echoing on metal stairs. The air smelled of oil and old paper. Santos muttered, "This place shouldn't be standing." Maya answered softly, "Neither should some people." They reached a corridor lined with faded hazard symbols. Cyrillic warnings ghosted the walls. Doors sealed with layers of grime. Beyond each one, the hum of generators and the soft hiss of air systems that hadn't seen daylight in years. Then a sound, faint footsteps ahead. Mercer raised a fist. They froze. The footsteps stopped too. For a long second, no one breathed. Then a voice came from the darkness ahead, smooth, low, with a hint of accent polished by time. "Do you remember the ridge, Maya?" Her heart lurched. He stepped into view. The sling was gone. His coat was clean pressed. He looked less like a fugitive and more like a man giving a lecture. The case hung at his side, edges dented but intact. Mercer's rifle came up, hands where I can see them. Smiled faintly. "If you wanted me dead, Lieutenant, you would have let her shoot weeks ago." His gaze shifted to Maya. "You have your grandfather's eyes." Her pulse slowed to that sniper rhythm she couldn't turn off. "You knew him." "I owed him," said. "He saved my unit in, and then he saved something far more dangerous, me." Mercer's jaw tightened. "Spare us the memoir." Ignored him. He unlatched the case, opened it halfway. The inner glow of a refrigeration cell lit his face pale blue. Inside, sealed vials shimmered like liquid glass. Santos swallowed. "That's humanity's insurance policy," said. "Not plague, not weapon, cure." Maya frowned. "Cure for what?" "For us," he said simply. "For everything we built to destroy ourselves." Mercer barked a laugh. "You expect us to believe that?" Stepped closer. "Believe what you like. The people you work for already do. Why do you think they kept me alive?" Maya's stomach turned. "Rhodes knows about this." "Rhodes is a courier," said. "He delivers faith disguised as science." He looked at her again, the way someone studies an heirloom before returning it to its owner. "Your grandfather knew what the Hades program was truly for. Containment of hope, not disease." Santos whispered, "You're insane." "Perhaps," said, "but insanity is just clarity without a leash." He closed the case and locked it with a soft click. "You can kill me now. Command will call it clean. They'll take the case, relabel it, and continue. Or you can walk away and let the truth die with me." Maya's hands shook for the first time in years. Mercer glanced at her, reading the hesitation. "Rain, don't." Took one step closer. "He taught you to breathe with the land, didn't he? That's what he always said before the shot." Her throat tightened. "Hell." He smiled, "Because he said it to me too." Something inside her cracked then. Not fear, not pity. Just the realization that she'd been walking a circle drawn decades before she was born. Mercer's radio burst alive with static, Rhodes' voice cutting through. "Team Viking, this is Control. Confirmed target located. Package retrieval imminent. Stand by for entry." Smile vanished. "They're coming." He looked at her one last time. "Decide who you work for, Maya, the living or the obedient." Then he turned and ran deeper into the corridor. Mercer shouted, "Move!" They chased him through the tunnels, light bouncing off wet walls, footsteps echoing like heartbeats. Gunfire erupted behind them, Rhodes' men breaching, efficient, methodical. Santos ducked behind a pipe as rounds sparked off metal. "They're shooting at us." "Of course they are," Mercer yelled. "We're liabilities now." Maya sprinted ahead, rounding a corner, then stopped dead. Stood at the end of the hall beside a massive blast door, hand hovering over a keypad. "If you follow," he said calmly, "you won't come back." "You're not detonating anything," she said. He looked almost gentle. "You misunderstand, I'm releasing it." "Releasing what?" "The truth." The door behind him slid open, and hot air rushed out carrying a smell like salt and ozone. Inside, rows of containment tanks glowed faintly blue, each marked with identical serials. Some cracked, some leaking mist that rolled across the floor. Mercer shouted, "He's breaching." Maya raised her rifle. "Stop." Looked at her calm. "If I stop, it continues. If I end it, maybe something better grows from the ashes." His hand went to the keypad. She fired. The round hit center mass. He staggered, looked down at the bloom of red on his coat, and almost smiled. "Stillness between heartbeats," he whispered. "He taught you well." He fell backward into the chamber. The door began to close automatically, alarms wailing in Russian and English. Maya ran forward, grabbed the case before it sealed. The door locked with a heavy clang. A soft hiss followed, containment systems purging the chamber in flame. Through the small window, fire bloomed like sunrise. Mercer pulled her back. "We have to go." She clutched the case to her chest. "We can't let Rhodes get this." Santos called over comms, voice panicked. "They're closing in, east tunnel blocked." Mercer swore, "South vent shaft now." They ran, lungs burning, boots sliding on metal. Behind them, the tunnel roared as demolition charges started chain detonating. The mountain itself seemed to shudder. At the final ladder, Santos boosted Maya up first. "Go." She climbed, case slung across her shoulder, the heat rising behind her like an approaching verdict. She burst out into daylight just as the ground heaved. The tunnel mouth collapsed, swallowing sound. Snow and dust rained down. For a long time, nothing moved. Then Mercer crawled out beside her, coughing hard. Santos followed, face streaked with soot but alive. They looked back. The mountain smoked where the hatch had been, nothing left, no tunnel, no. Maya knelt in the snow, the case still cold in her arms. Santos stared at it. "Please tell me that thing's empty." Maya opened it. Inside, shattered vials. The liquid frozen solid. Whatever it was, it died with him. Mercer let out a breath that could have been relief or grief. "So that's it." Maya shook her head slowly. "No, that's never it." He looked at her. "What now?" She glanced toward the horizon where Rhodes' signal beacon blinked faintly through the haze. "We finish it," she said, "this time on our terms." She closed the case and stood, the wind pulling strands of hair across her face. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, or maybe it was something breaking underground. For the first time since the ridge, she didn't feel like a sniper waiting for orders. She felt like the mountain, patient, watching, choosing when to speak. And the thought came quietly, the way truth often does. Sometimes the trigger isn't a weapon, it's a decision. Night fell fast, bringing back the cold. They set camp by the frozen river, too tired to talk, too alive to sleep. The fire snapped and hissed. Santos stared into it. "You think he really believed it was a cure?" Maya didn't answer for a while. Then, "Belief's a dangerous kind of weapon. It keeps killing even after you run out of ammo." Mercer tossed a stick into the flames. "Then maybe we just buried the last believer." Maya looked at him, eyes reflecting the firelight. "No," she said softly, "we just became them." The wind shifted again, blowing snow across the embers. and for a moment the world looked clean, almost peaceful. But she knew better. The mountain never forgets what it's asked to bury. By the time they reached base, the story had already been rewritten. The radio traffic was calm, official, sterile, the kind of language built to erase truth. Containment failure, site neutralized, minimal casualties, civilian collateral, zero. Maya listened in silence as the C-130 droned through the cold air. The world below was nothing but cloud and distance. Mercer sat across from her, eyes hollow, bruises dark under them. Santos stared at the floor, headphones around his neck, mouth tight. They all heard the same message in their head, though none said it out loud, were already ghosts. When they landed, Rhodes was waiting on the tarmac. Clean uniform, polished boots, that same smile that could curdle blood. "Welcome home," he said lightly, as if greeting old friends. No one answered. He gestured toward a line of transport trucks idling nearby. "Debrief in 15. Hand over weapons, optics, and classified materials." Maya tightened her grip on the case still slung across her shoulder. It was empty now, useless, but he didn't need to know that. She handed over her rifle, sidearm, knives, even the compass, but not the case. Rhodes noticed, "That one's coming with me." She met his eyes. "Protocol says command review first." He smiled faintly. "Command is me." For a moment, the air between them was cold enough to burn. Then Mercer stepped forward. "We'll accompany the handoff." Rhodes' smile didn't break. Of course, wouldn't want any misunderstandings. The debriefing room smelled of disinfectant and old coffee. One camera in the corner blinked red. A recorder hummed softly on the table. Rhodes sat opposite them, sleeves rolled up, calm as a surgeon. "Let's start simple," he said. "Colonel, status." Maya answered without hesitation. "Deceased, self-immolated during containment breach. Cause of death, gunshot wound prior to ignition." Rhodes' pen tapped against the table. "By your hand." "Yes." He smiled as if she'd confirmed a theory. "And the cargo?" "Destroyed in the purge." He leaned back, studied her. "Convenient." Maya met his gaze, voice steady. "So was your timing." For a moment the smile cracked, just enough for her to see what lay behind it. Not malice, control, the kind that doesn't tolerate deviation. He stood. "You've done exemplary work, Sergeant. Command appreciates your service." "That what you tell all your ghosts?" she asked. He paused. "Only the ones who still think they're alive." Then he left the room. The door closed with a soft click, but the sound lingered like a verdict. 2 hours later they were cleared from the base. No medals, no citations, not even signatures on their exit forms. Just silence and a ride out the back gate. Snow had started falling again. The airfield lights flickered in the storm. Santos climbed into the transport first, muttering, "We burn, we bleed, we bury, and the file gets a new name." Mercer sat beside him, jaw clenched. "That's the job." "No," Maya said quietly, climbing in last. "That's the story they sell us, so we'll keep buying it." No one replied. The truck rumbled down the service road, tires hissing on wet gravel. Through the window the base shrank behind them, all steel, fences, and fluorescent promises. Somewhere in that maze, Rhodes was already writing his next report. Maya stared into the dark and whispered, "He won't stop." Mercer looked over. "Then what are we going to do about it?" She didn't answer, not yet. They reached the outskirts of Kabul by dawn. The streets were half awake, vendors opening stalls, children running through alleys, the smell of bread and diesel mixing in the cold air. Maya watched it all pass by, feeling that familiar ache, the reminder that life went on no matter what the uniform buried. They found an old safe house near the airport, abandoned, half collapsed, but it had walls and a door that still locked. Santos rigged a small generator. Mercer scavenged food. Maya unpacked the case, set it on the table. The latch was cracked, the inside lined with frost. Empty, but something about it felt heavier than before. Santos sat down beside it. "You sure nothing survived?" "Nothing physical," she said. Mercer frowned, meaning. She reached into her vest pocket and pulled out the compass. The note still folded inside. "He left this." She opened it. The sparrow symbol was faint, smeared by age. But beneath it, new writing had appeared, ink smudged from heat, not her grandfather's hand. Then she read it aloud. "The cure was never in the vial. It was in what we refused to obey." Silence. Santos leaned back. "That's cryptic as hell." Mercer shook his head. "No, it's literal. He meant disobedience, choice." Maya traced the words with her thumb. "Then maybe he wasn't the villain they told us he was." Mercer looked at her, eyes tired but steady. "And what does that make us?" She met his gaze, complicit. That night they took turns on watch, though no one expected an attack. Old habits. The wind scraped against the windows. Somewhere in the distance, gunfire echoed, not close enough to matter, not far enough to forget. At 200 hours, Maya stepped outside. The sky was cloudless now, stars spread like frost. She stood there a long time, breathing the cold, feeling every ghost the mountain had given her. Footsteps approached behind her. "Mercer." "You're not sleeping," he said. "Neither are you." He shrugged. "You shoot the man who saves you, you don't sleep easy." She turned toward him, face unreadable. He wasn't saving us. He was saving a truth no one wanted to exist. "Same thing sometimes," Mercer said. They stood in silence for a while. Then he asked, "What if Rhodes is right? What if people like your grandfather actually kept the world from falling apart?" Maya looked up at the stars. "Then they built peace out of secrets, and that's not peace, that's control." She closed the compass, slipped it into her pocket. And control always needs blood to keep running. He nodded slowly. "So what now?" She hesitated, then said quietly, "We leak it." He blinked. "What?" "The files, the coordinates, everything from the microfilm. Let the world see what they call protection." "That's treason, Maya." She looked at him. "So was telling the truth in every war I've ever read about." He didn't answer. The wind carried the sound of distant engines, maybe trucks, maybe fate catching up. Maya whispered, "We can't bury another generation's ghosts, not if they still breathe." Mercer finally said, "If we do this, we don't go home." "We never had one," she said softly. By dawn, the safe house was a storm of maps, papers, and open laptops. Santos tapped at an old satellite uplink, swearing every few seconds. Mercer went through backup drives, pulling encrypted archives. Maya worked silently, scanning microfilm slides under a portable light. Each one told fragments of something terrible. Operations labeled Project Hades, Crossfire Veil, Silent Summit. Each stamped with overlapping flags, US, Soviet, NATO. All of it real, all of it buried. Santos whistled low. "This stuff's enough to end careers." "Not careers," Mercer said grimly. "Empires." They heard it before they saw it, rotor blades chopping through the air. "Helicopters." Santos's hands froze over the keyboard. "How?" "They tracked the generator," Maya said. Mercer grabbed his rifle. "Extraction team." "No," she said, voice flat. "Cleanup." She yanked the hard drives, stuffed them into her pack. Santos disconnected the uplink, sparks spitting as he ripped cables free. "Out the back," Mercer barked. They ran through dust, through shattering glass as rounds tore into the walls. Outside, the night lit up with spotlights. Voices shouted in English. "Drop your weapons, stand down." Santos ducked behind a wall. "They're not here to arrest us." Maya fired a burst toward the light, buying seconds. "We move." They sprinted down an alley, bullets chasing echoes. A round caught Santos in the shoulder. He grunted, stumbled, but kept running. At the end of the street, Mercer kicked open a door to an abandoned mosque. Inside, shadows and silence swallowed them. Maya dragged Santos behind a pillar, pressed a bandage to the wound. "Stay still." He winced. "I'm fine." She looked at him. "You're bleeding through your sarcasm." He smiled weakly. "Then it's working." Mercer checked the window. "They're spreading out, 2 squads." "Then we split," Maya said. "Not happening," Mercer said immediately. "You have to protect the files. You and Santos, I'll draw them off." "That's suicide." "It's math," she said quietly. "You get 1 shot at the uplink, that's all that matters." He hesitated, jaw tightening. "Where do we meet?" "You'll know," she said. She handed him the compass. "When it stops shaking, that's where I'll be." He looked down at it, then at her. "You really think this ends with truth?" She managed a faint smile. "Truth's the only thing that doesn't need an extraction team." Then she turned and ran. Outside, the snow had stopped. The city glowed faintly orange in the dawn. Helicopters swept low, searchlights cutting across rooftops. Maya moved like a ghost, fast, silent, deliberate. Every alley, every shadow a calculation. She could hear the shouts behind her, the mechanical rhythm of pursuit. But in her chest, something felt lighter. The mountain was behind her now, but its silence was still with her, that calm between heartbeats, the lesson she'd been given by 2 men from different centuries. Breathe with the land. Let it teach you when to vanish. She reached the edge of the district, climbed to the roof of a crumbling hotel, and watched the helicopters circle. For the first time in days, she smiled. They were chasing her shadow. Below, in the chaos she'd created, Mercer and Santos slipped through the outskirts, 2 silhouettes carrying the only truth that mattered. And in that moment, she understood what it meant. The cure was never a chemical. It was defiance, pure, dangerous human defiance. She whispered into the wind, "Let them write whatever story they want." Then she turned, disappearing into the smoke and light, 1 step ahead of the machine that built her. The sky above burned pink with sunrise, quiet, indifferent, eternal. And somewhere far below, the compass needle finally stopped shaking. They uploaded the files at dawn, and the world blinked awake. Mercer stared at the progress bar crawling across the laptop screen. 64%, 71%, 84%, each number feeling like a heartbeat closer to no return. The signal came through an abandoned relay tower at the edge of the city, old enough that no one thought it worked anymore. Santos sat nearby, pale, clutching his shoulder. His blood had soaked through the bandage hours ago, but his hand never left the uplink cable. "You sure this'll reach anyone?" Mercer's voice was tight. "Every journalist, every watchdog, every forum I could route it to, someone will see it. Someone has to." "Or they'll just erase it," Santos muttered. Mercer shook his head. "Not all of them, not all at once." The final bar turned green. "Upload complete." A moment of silence followed, not relief, just stillness. Santos exhaled, shaky and slow. "So now what?" Mercer looked out the cracked window. The horizon burned faint gold, the kind of morning that pretends nothing happened. "Now," he said, "we wait for the storm." The storm came faster than expected. By midday, international news feeds began flickering with snippets, leaked documents, coordinates, images of mountain vaults and ghost facilities long erased from records. Project Hades, Operation Silent Summit, names of generals, agents, scientists, dead or alive, all tied to programs built in the dark and kept alive by people like Rhodes. The world didn't understand what it was seeing yet, but it was seeing, and that was enough. Santos sat by the radio scanning frequencies. Every network's losing its mind, some calling it a hoax, others calling it treason. Mercer reloaded his rifle without looking up. Same word, different audience. Then the static shifted, a voice cut through, calm and unmistakable. "Team Viking," said Rhodes. "I hope you're listening." They froze. Rhodes' voice came from a secure frequency, encrypted, still confident. "You think you changed something. You didn't, you just moved the game pieces. Every truth needs context. Without it, people panic, and panic breeds control, ours." Mercer grabbed the handset. "Then why are you talking, Rhodes? Afraid the truth might outlive you?" A low laugh. "You've done well, admirable even, but you're soldiers, not prophets, and soldiers without orders don't last long." Santos clicked the radio off, jaw clenched. He sounds calm for a man whose empire's on fire. Mercer looked at the radio like it was something venomous. That's because he doesn't think he's lost yet. By nightfall, the safe house had turned cold again. The generator sputtered out. They sat in the dim light of one dying lamp. Santos dozed, his breathing shallow. Mercer cleaned his weapon with automatic precision, something to do with his hands while his mind refused rest. Then he said quietly, "You think she made it?" Santos stirred. "Maya." "Yeah." Santos smiled faintly. "If anyone could vanish under a spotlight, it's her." Mercer nodded. "Still, silence feels different when it's not chosen." They fell quiet again. The lamp flickered once, then went dark. Maya hadn't stopped moving. Since the night she split from them, she'd crossed borders under fake names, traded uniforms for civilian jackets, used cash that smelled of dust and rain. Somewhere along the way, the world had changed. Streets buzzed with journalists, screens showing maps and headlines she recognized. Hades program REVALED. UNDEMANDS investigation. Leak source unknown. She watched from bus stops, rooftops, border crossings. No one recognized her face. That was the price and the blessing of being a ghost. But every time she saw one of those headlines, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself in years, pride mixed with sorrow. Words echoed in her mind. The cure was never in the vial. He'd been right. The cure was exposure. The act of dragging truth out of the dark, even if it burned everyone holding it. She stopped in a small town one night, nameless, quiet. Bought bread, coffee, a map. When the shopkeeper handed her change, she noticed the TV behind the counter showing a news anchor reporting on unverified leaks implicating global agencies. The ticker at the bottom read, "Multiple credited, evidence traced to task force." Her fingers tightened around the coffee cup. They'd done it. Mercer, Santos. They'd finished what she couldn't. She stepped outside into the cold air and looked east, toward the mountains that had swallowed her past and given her purpose. Somewhere out there, beneath ice and silence, ashes mixed with the soil, her grandfather's memory rested beside them. And above them, satellites carried what both men had died for, proof that silence, weaponized long enough, eventually breaks. 3 days later, she found a message waiting. An encrypted file uploaded to a shared drop site she hadn't used since before the mission. The sender tag was a name she knew instantly, Mercer. She opened it on a burner laptop, the fan whining from age. The video feed crackled to life. Mercer sat in a dim room, fatigue in every line of his face. "Maya," he said quietly, "if you're watching this, you're still alive. Good. That's more than I can say for most of us." He exhaled. "Santos didn't make it. Took a round during extraction 2 nights ago. We buried him near the river, said he wanted to see open water again." Maya felt the air leave her lungs. Mercer continued, voice steady. "Rhodes is gone, or pretending to be, commands fractured. The files hit too many places at once, but the people behind it, they're still moving. They'll adapt. They always do." He leaned closer to the camera. "I'm heading west, off-grid. Someone has to keep eyes on what's left of the system. You do what you do best, disappear. But remember this, what we started wasn't about revenge or redemption. It was about permission. The permission to choose our side when the orders stop making sense." He paused, then smiled the smallest, saddest smile. You always did breathe better under pressure. The video cut out. Maya sat there a long time, the wind outside pressing against the walls like an ocean tide. Then she closed the laptop, removed the hard drive and tossed it into the fire. Some truths had to end with the people who carried them. Months passed, seasons changed without ceremony. Somewhere on the edge of Eastern Europe, a woman worked as a ranger for a wildlife reserve, quiet, competent, invisible. She carried no ID, spoke little, and never stayed in one place longer than necessary. Visitors thought she was just another local. No one noticed the scar along her collarbone or the habit of scanning before sunset. At night, she would sit by the fire, tracing the outline of a compass in her hand, the same one she'd given to Mercer once, now returned anonymously in a brown envelope. Its needle no longer trembled. Sometimes she'd whisper to it, not expecting an answer, "You can rest now." Because somewhere in the noise of a waking world, the truth they'd buried had become a seed, growing quietly in every question people started to ask. Maybe they'd never know her name. Maybe that was the point. Silence had been her weapon once, now it was her peace. A year later, far from any map, a convoy moved across another snow-covered valley, white trucks with no insignia, guarded by soldiers with no flag. From a ridge above, a rifle scope tracked them for a moment, then lowered. Through the crosshairs, only the mountains remained, calm, endless, older than every secret men tried to hide within them. A woman exhaled softly, steadying her breath. Not to kill, just to remember. Then she turned away, leaving the rifle buried under snow. Some wars didn't need soldiers anymore. They needed witnesses. That night, under a wide, indifferent sky, she built a small fire near the tree line. The wind carried the scent of pine and frost. She poured a little coffee from a dented thermos, set the compass beside her, and looked up at the stars. Her voice was barely a whisper. For all the ones who didn't come home. For a moment, she imagined Santos laughing somewhere, bricks shouting through static, Mercer watching from another ridge. She imagined and her grandfather, arguing in two languages about faith and duty, and how men like them could never retire from their own shadows. She smiled, "You can rest now." The flames danced higher, golden against the dark. She sat there until the fire burned down to embers. When it did, she picked up the compass, pressed it once against her palm, and let it fall into the coals. The metal hissed, then went still. And she whispered one last time, not to anyone living, but to the world itself. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. The wind rose and carried her words away, scattering them through the valley. No medals, no record, no survivors' interviews. Just a story, one that began with silence, ended with truth, and left behind a world that, for the first time in a long time, was listening. And in that quiet, somewhere beyond the reach of command, Staff Sergeant Maya Rain finally closed her eyes. Not to forget, but to rest. The end.